Welcome to Lensing Wren with me, Neil Oseman, Director of Photography.
This is the second in a 5-part series where I'm breaking down the creative choices made in the cinematography of each episode. If you haven't seen the show, click the annotation link and check it out. Episode 2 starts with a big scene in Wren's house. Now, the first thing you do as a cinematographer looking at a set is to ask yourself where light would be coming from. So here we have 2 little windows, we have candles dotted about, and we have a fireplace that's mostly off screen but which Dagron is going to throw the book into later. I put a 2.5K HMI outside the living room window, and since I didn't have another HMI, I put a little LED Fresnel outside the bedroom window, which is only in the deep background for this scene anyway. Now, the shaft of light from the living room window looks really good, but because the window's so small it's not doing a great deal to illuminate the scene. So we put up a 4x4 Kino poking over the top of the set above the window. This simulates softer, indirect daylight as opposed to the hard directional sunlight of the HMI. To beef up the light from the candles, I clamped dados to the top of the set above the sconces. Now, dados are tungsten lamps, so they show up orange on camera when I white balance for the daylight sources. For the fireplace, I bounced an 800-watt tungsten Arilight into the gold side of a collapsible reflector, and we have someone wiggling that reflector throughout the scene. So you can see in the wide shots that the 4x4 Kinoflow above the window is doing most of the work, giving the characters a nice wrapping backlight that contrasts with the orange front light of the fireplace. Normally I don't like front light, it's not a good idea in cinematography at all, but because it's flickering we get away with it. When we moved on to the singles, I turned off the 4x4 and brought in a 2x4 Kino on a stand, placing it inside the set near to the window. By doing this, I can cheat the angle of the soft daylight to get the most flattering and appropriate light on the actors' faces. I'm not a fan of top light. It was necessary in the wide shots to keep the lamps out of frame, so as soon as we're on singles, I want the light to be coming much more from eye level. It's so important to get light into actors' eye sockets, or you lose some of the performance. Out in the forest, I relied mostly on natural light, with a bit of bounce to lift people's faces. When we get to Lyanna's close-ups at the end of the fight, I wanted to visually enhance her tough character, so I put in a hard light from the side with an LED panel, similar to what I did with Kyle in episode 1. With Wren's close-ups, I used bounce to keep her face soft and shadowless. Most of the series was shot at an aperture of f4 on the Blackmagic production camera, or f2.8 on the Cinema camera to match the depth of field on the smaller sensor. I used variable neutral density filters to control the depth of field in exterior scenes. But whenever stuff was going on with the Spirit and the Mark, I reduced the depth of field on Wren's close-ups to enhance her wooziness and suggest the outside world falling away.
Check out my accompanying blog post on neilosman.com for lighting plans and further info. That's all for this week, but tune in next week for episode 3.